Hi everyone. So I've been thinking about this topic for quite some time, probably the last maybe 10 years. I want to talk tonight about emotional abuse. And there's, a lot of stories out there. People talk about abuse all the time, whether it be physical abuse or sexual abuse. Of course, those are horrible, horrible things to go through, but nobody really talks about emotional abuse and how it affects us, when we're children. And so, of course, I do a lot of reflecting and I do a lot of watching YouTube videos and like trying to self improve myself and trying to heal myself from the past of the stuff that I've gone through. And so it brings me back to my past and, when I was a little girl and what was instilled in my mind about myself and how I felt about myself, my self esteem, where all that came from. I remember, and I'm not trying to dog on my parents, my family, but this stuff happened to me and it made me the person that I am today. I'm not a victim because I don't like that word, being a victim. It's something that I've gone through, and all of the emotional abuse that I experienced as a child, I brought into relationships, that I've had with people in life. And I was emotionally abused as a child. And I remember most of the emotional abuse that I felt was like I always had to beg for love from like my mom. I always needed to get a kiss before I went to bed at night, and she teased me. And I think I've talked about this before, but it really instilled in me that I needed to chase down love, that it wasn't offered to me like freely given. And that really impacted me as a child. It did. I remember. And my mom was always leaving. And she was always leaving my dad. And I was the one that she would call to go pack her bags and whatnot. And that was emotionally abusive to me. And also, she used to call me names a lot. She called me a lot of names when I was a kid. I was listening the other day to this song by Kelly Clarkson, and I forget the name of the song, but there was a line in it that said, it's Piece by Piece. And there's a line in it that says, that so you were worthless. And I remember that was one of the number one things that my mom called me all the time, was worthless. And that really, like, it impacted me. Like I keep saying, what I went through as a child impacted me. And she also called me dog eyes and cow eyes. And I don't, still to this day, I don't understand, why she said those things or where that came from. But then I look back and I've said things to my children that I totally regret. So I don't know where my mom was at her place in her life at that time. But yeah, I was emotionally abused as a child. It caused me to have low self-esteem, and I always felt that I had to do something, be better, like be such a good child. I relished on the fact that I was like an obedient child. My sisters weren't, and they disobeyed her and they didn't listen to her or whatnot. And I thought if I could just be good enough, if I didn't make my mom cry, if I didn't make my mom worry about me, that I would somehow earn that love from her. And in her way, she loved me, but not in the way that I needed as a child to be loved. And when you grow up being emotionally abused as a child, of course, when you go and you start dating, go out into the world and find people to date, of course, you're going to probably attract those same type of people because that is what you're comfortable with. When I was 16, I met my ex-husband, and we didn't start dating until I was 19, and it was fast, like instantly. When we got together, I was like moved in with him within 4 months, and in a year and 5 months I was married. So it was really quick, and of course everything was wonderful in the beginning, you know, like it always is. And he told me all about his past. He came from a pretty abusive home. His dad was a physical abuser of his mom, and he said that he would never ever do that. He promised that he would never ever physically abuse me. And of course, then, so we got married a year and 5 months into that, and I saw how his dad, one time when my ex-husband was still down in Louisiana, and I had come home on a break from the military, and they picked me up in Great Falls from the airport, my ex-father-in-law and my ex-mother-in-law. And the way he talked to her, gosh, she did not light his cigarette fast enough because he was smoking, and she was supposed to light his cigarette. And he like got so angry at her because she wasn't quick enough lighting it. And I remember sitting in the back seat being like just so quiet, wanting so badly to say something like, "You effing jerk," because of course my ex-husband had told me, you know, how his dad was a tyrant when he was growing up, and his dad was physically abusive, verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, you name it, he did it all. And so, you know, being with him, that felt comfortable to me. Like how he started treating me, it wasn't bad in the beginning, it wasn't, because it kind of sneaks up on you. I was used to that environment. I was used to all that. And so I really didn't think, when I was first married, I did not think like anything was wrong. I didn't, because it was so normal to me. And so I looked up a couple things on YouTube tonight, and one of the things that my ex-husband used to do, like if I did anything wrong, he would give me the silent treatment. He wouldn't talk to me, like for days. And he knew that I hated that. I hated conflict. I didn't like any, you know, tension in the house. And he manipulated me and used that because he knew that that would just get to me. And so he would, like, sometimes, I remember he told me when we were getting a divorce, he told me that one time that he went like 4 or 5 days without eating, because also he would not eat anything. I would cook dinner and he wouldn't eat it. He would like not talk to me for days, and I would just like stew and wonder what I did, and the fight ensued, and I was always the one to go back and say sorry, even though I didn't do anything wrong, just because I wanted peace in the house. And he knew that about me. And so he would give me the silent treatment, and that's emotional abuse. And another thing that he used to do, he was passive aggressive. I need my glasses. He would always tell me that I was too sensitive. Like, oh, you're too sensitive. Like, if I would tell him how he made me feel, I would try to express my feelings to how I was feeling. He would dismiss them. He would act like he didn't hear me, and he would dismiss me and said I was too sensitive. And that's not only happened with him, it's happened like in relationships since my ex-husband, and also with my sisters. I've got told that too many times to count that I was too sensitive, that I shouldn't be feeling the way that I feel. They never allowed me to be myself and be me. So that's why I've done so much work on myself. I've been like studying and like trying to heal myself. I remember when I definitely knew that I wanted to leave my ex-husband, but it was scary because I had a daycare and that was my job and it was in our family home. And so I couldn't just like leave him, and plus he always told me like he was the top breadwinner. I could never make it on my own, that I needed him. He made me feel all these things. And I truly, truly believed that until he had to go through lung surgery one time. And he couldn't work for June, July, August. For 4 months, he couldn't work. And he didn't have very much vacation or sick time saved up. And I remember praying through all of that. And I remember God got me through all that. He did. I don't know how it happened, but that's another story. But I knew at that time that I could take care of myself. And so, yeah. And so I remember at that same time in the end of my marriage, I remember going to a bookstore over by Beaverton. I think it was a Powell's. And I remember going to the self-help relationship section, and I found a book that said, "Should I Leave Him?" And if you're looking for a book that says, "Should I leave him?" you shouldn't even have to ask. The answer is most definitely probably yes. But yeah, I had gotten to the point in my relationship where I became indifferent and I didn't care anymore. You know, it happened. I had just taken too much from him. And of course, I was always told to forgive, and the man is the head of the house. You know what my father taught me when I was growing up. And I never minded doing all that stuff for him, but there came a point where I felt neglected. I felt emotionally abused, like I didn't matter. And then he started accusing me constantly of cheating. Well, it happened throughout most of the marriage. But to me, I took that as him calling me a whore. And it's just another way, you know, that he tried to make me feel less than. And I never really believed all that stuff that he was saying to me. I was really just making my escape. I was planning my escape from him, to get away from him. But my kids were important to me, and I didn't want to mess up our house, our home. But I allowed them to experience all of that and to learn and to see how I was treated. And so I feel guilty about that part. I do. But yeah, emotional abuse. You can't see it on the outside, but the scars are definitely in here, and it hurts inside. It's painful. And so since my divorce, I've like looked for different relationships, and I've experienced some of the same stuff I have. And I've allowed things to happen to me. I've put up with stuff that I look back now and know that I never should have. And I'm at a point in my life where I've been single for so long because I'll meet men, because I'm on this dating site, and there'll be one red flag and I'm just like, run, you know? And I don't like that in me. I don't like that in me, where have such a wall up. I'm so guarded. But I have met a guy. I've been like talking and seeing with him for about 7 months, but I'm still very, very guarded because still there's things that like he'll say, and I'm like, the antennas go up. I'm like, you know, I'm just very, very cautious. And I don't want to be this cautious, but I don't want to be stupid either. But I still have a lot more studying to do on this emotional abuse because I don't want to be attracted to abuse. I don't want to be in the same situation and feel comfortable with that type of relationship. So I'm guarded, but I'm very open, and I'm happy that I'm learning. And yeah, so if you have any issues or things that you want to talk about, I'm always here to listen. You can private message me if you want to talk about stuff. I'm always here to listen. I have a big heart, and they're not too big. I have big ears. I'll talk to you soon.